The human rescued the alien officer's life, not knowing she was the station's most elite warrior. The explosion ripped through the lower decks like the roar of a dying star, hurling me against the bulkhead with a force that cracked my ribs and filled my mouth with the copper tang of blood. I was just a lowly maintenance tech on Orion Station, a forgotten speck orbiting the gas giant Epsilon Eridani, far from Earth's gleaming core worlds. But in that moment, as alarms wailed and the air hissed from breached seals, I stumbled upon her, crumpled in the shadows of a shattered corridor, her sleek exosuit venting plasma, her alien form twitching in agony. I didn't think twice. I dragged her to safety, my hands burning from the heat of her armor. Little did I know, she wasn't just any survivor. She was the station's most elite warrior, and saving her would unravel my entire existence. My name is Jax Harlan, and I'd been scraping by on Orion for 3 years, fixing life support systems and patching hull breaches for the interstellar conglomerate that owned this floating tin can. The station was a neutral hub, a crossroads for humans, Zorathians, and a dozen other species trading goods, tech, and secrets. But neutrality was a lie. Whispers of espionage and sabotage echoed through the vents. That day, the blast came without warning. I was in the sublevels recalibrating a faulty grav plate when the world turned to fire. Smoke choked the air as I hauled her body. Tall, lithe, with iridescent scales that shimmered like oil on water, into an emergency pod. Her eyes, 4 of them in a diamond pattern, fluttered open briefly, locking onto mine with an intensity that pierced my soul. "Human, why?" she rasped in a voice like grinding crystals, her translator implant glitching. I ignored her, focusing on sealing the pod's door as debris hammered against it. The station's AI blared evacuation protocols, but I knew the escape shuttles were already overrun. This pod was our only shot. As the pod jettisoned into the void, tumbling away from the flaming wreckage, I finally looked at her properly. She was Zorathian, one of the insectoid-humanoid hybrids from the Outer Rim colonies. Her armor bore no insignia I recognized, just faint etchings that glowed faintly. I administered a universal med gel from the pod's kit, watching it knit her wounds with nanoscale precision. "You're going to be okay," I muttered, more to convince myself. But what had caused the explosion? Sabotage? An accident? And why was she down there alone? The pod's thrusters stabilized us, drifting toward the planet's ring system, a graveyard of ice and rock that could hide us from scanners. She stirred, her clawed hand gripping my arm with surprising strength. "You saved me," she said, her voice clearer now. "Foolish. They will hunt you now." "Who?" I wanted to ask, but a proximity alert blared. Sensor pings, ships closing in. Pirates? Corporate enforcers? My heart pounded. This rescue had just turned into a nightmare. We crashed into the rings with a shudder, the pod burrowing into a massive ice asteroid like a bullet into flesh. The impact jarred my broken ribs, pain lancing through me, but I forced myself to move. Outside, the vacuum was lethal, but the pod suits would buy us time. "We need to hide," I said, helping her into a human-sized enviro suit that barely fit her elongated frame. Her name, she told me as we sealed up, was Lyra Voss, Captain Lyra Voss of the Zorathian Vanguard. But she didn't elaborate and I didn't press. Survival first. The asteroid's interior was a labyrinth of frozen tunnels lit by bioluminescent fungi that the Zorathians had seeded years ago for mining ops. We navigated by flashlight, her steps unsteady at first, then gaining the fluid grace of a predator. "Why were you on the lower decks?" I asked, my breath fogging the helmet visor. She paused, her 4 eyes scanning the shadows. "Classified. But no, this human. The station held something dangerous, a weapon that could unmake worlds." A chill ran down my spine, unrelated to the cold. What had I stumbled into? Deeper in, we found an abandoned outpost, rusty hab modules from the early colonization days. I rigged a heater from scavenged parts, and we hunkered down. Lyra removed her helmet, revealing a face both beautiful and terrifying. mandibles framing a mouth that could smile or snarl, antennae twitching like living sensors. "You risk much for a stranger," she said, her voice carrying a melodic undertone. I shrugged, wincing at the pain. "Couldn't just leave you to die. That's not who I am." But inside, doubt swirled. Was she worth it? And what if those hunters found us? Hours turned to days in that icy tomb. Lyra's wounds healed faster than any human's, thanks to her species' regenerative tech. We shared stories to pass the time, me about Earth's overcrowded megacities, her about the crystalline spires of Zorith Prime. But tension simmered. She was guarded, her answers clipped. One night, as the asteroid groaned under tidal stresses, she confessed the explosion was no accident. Traitors within the station triggered it to cover their theft. Theft of what? She wouldn't say, but her eyes darkened. If they succeed, billions die. The weight of her words pressed on me like gravity. What was I doing here? A sudden tremor shook the outpost, not natural. Scanners picked up drilling rigs, boring through the ice. They'd found us. "Arm yourself," Lyra commanded, her warrior instincts kicking in. I grabbed a plasma cutter from the tools. She activated hidden blades in her suit. We fled deeper, the tunnels collapsing behind us in controlled detonations. Blasts echoed, pursuers closing. Who were they? Mercenaries? Her own kind? My lungs burned as we ran, but adrenaline surged. This was no maintenance job, this was war. We burst into a vast cavern, crystalline formations glittering like stars. There, a hidden shuttle, Lyra's emergency craft cloaked and waiting. But as we approached, shadows detached from the walls. Armored figures, Zorathian renegades with glowing rifles. "Traitor!" one hissed at Lyra. She moved like lightning, blades flashing, dispatching two before they could fire. I dove for cover, my cutter searing through another's leg. Chaos erupted, plasma bolts scorching the air, ice shattering. Lyra fought with feral grace, but she was outnumbered. A shot grazed her and she fell. Rage boiled in me. I charged, improvised weapon humming. I wasn't a fighter, but for her, for this stranger who'd become something more, I became one. I felled the last attacker with a desperate swing, his body crumpling in the low grav. Panting, I helped Lyra up. "You fought well, human," she said, surprise in her voice. But as we boarded the shuttle, a dying renegade laughed. "The artifact is already off station. Your efforts are futile." "Artifact? What artifact?" Lyra's face hardened. This was only the beginning. The shuttle rocketed out of the rings, cloaking fields engaged. We headed for the nearest jump point, but sensors lit up a blockade. Corporate frigates, allied with the traitors. "Hold on," Lyra said, her hands dancing over controls. We weaved through debris, lasers lancing past. My mind raced. Why me? Why had fate thrown me into this? But deeper a spark ignited, purpose. For the first time since leaving Earth, I felt alive. We jumped to hyperspace, the stars blurring into streaks. Lyra turned to me, her four eyes meeting my two. "You deserve the truth, Jax. The artifact is the Nexus core, a device that bends reality, forged by an ancient race. In the wrong hands, it could rewrite history, erase species." My blood ran cold. "And she was its guardian?" "I'm no guardian," she admitted. "I'm the elite, the Vanguard's deadliest. Trained to kill without mercy. Elite warrior, the station's most feared. And I'd saved her oblivious. But why hide it? Because trust is rare in the stars," she said softly. "And you've earned it." Emotions stirred, gratitude, perhaps more, but danger loomed. The traitors had the core, heading for a black market world. We had to stop them. As hyperspace hummed, I wondered, could nobody like me change the galaxy? What horrors awaited? We emerged in the shadow of Vespera Prime, a neon-drenched hive of vice and villainy orbiting a pulsar. The planet pulsed with energy, its cities stacked like layered sins. Lyra disguised us, me as a traitor, her as my bodyguard, her features masked by hollow projections. "Stay close," she warned. "This place eats the weak." We descended in a battered lander, the air thick with smog and alien scents. Crowds surged. Tentacled merchants haggling, cyber-Ajid thugs eyeing us warily. Our lead was a contact in the Undercity, a shady informant named Krell, a multi-limbed scavenger. We met in a dingy bar, holographic dancers swirling above. "The core's at auction tonight," Krell whispered, his eyes darting. "Big players, the Syndicate rogue AI cults." But as he spoke, a squad burst in, enforcers tipped off. Blasters fired, tables overturned. Lyra unleashed hell, her blades a blur. But one grazed my shoulder. Pain exploded, but I fought back, grabbing a stool to smash a foe. We escaped into the sewers, Krell's corpse left behind. "They knew we were coming," Lyra growled. "Betrayal? From whom?" Paranoia set in. As we sloshed through filth, she revealed more. The Vanguard had internal fractures. Some sought the core for power to dominate humans and others. "My own sister leads them," she confessed, voice breaking. "Sister?" The emotional crack in her armor hit me hard. Aliens felt betrayal too. We infiltrated the auction house, a glittering spire guarded by drones. Using my tech skills, I hacked the security net looping cams. Inside, opulence clashed with danger, elites in finery bidding on forbidden tech. The core sat on a pedestal, a pulsating orb of liquid light. But as bids soared, alarms wailed, raiders attacking. Chaos. Lyra grabbed me. "Now!" We dashed for the core, but her sister, Vera, identical but scarred, blocked us. "Lyra, join me. Humans are vermin, we can rule." The sisters clashed, a whirlwind of strikes and counters. I snatched the core, its energy thrumming through me, visions flashing. Ancient wars, collapsed empires. But Vera's goons swarmed. I activated a defense protocol. I jury-rigged. EMP bursting, dropping half. Lyra disarmed Vera, mandibles inches from her throat. "Why?" Lyra demanded, tears in her eyes. Zorathians cried. "For our people," Vera spat. Moral dilemma tore at Lyra, family versus duty. She spared her, binding her instead. We fled with the core, the spire crumbling behind. But pursuit ships launched. In orbit, a dogfight ensued, lasers, missiles. Our shuttle shuddered, shields failing. "Jax, take the core to the Vanguard," Lyra urged, piloting evasively. But a hit spun us. Ejecting, we plummeted toward Vespera's wilds. Impact. Blackness. I woke in a jungle, vines choking ancient ruins. Lyra was gone, the core with her? No, beside me, cracked but intact. Voices approached Vera's forces. I ran, core clutched tight, its power whispering temptations. Rewrite your past, erase your pains. But I resisted. Deeper in, I found Lyra, wounded, fighting off beasts, massive, tentacled horrors. Together, we held them, her strength waning. "Leave me," she said. "Save the galaxy." No, I wouldn't abandon her again. Using the core's energy, I amplified a signal, calling Vanguard reinforcements. But it drained me, visions overwhelming, Lyra's life, her losses, her hidden love for humanity's resilience. Emotions flooded, hers, mine. As ships descended, Vera arrived for final stand. The confrontation was epic. Lyra versus Vera, sibling rivalry exploding in fury. I aided with improvised traps, the jungle alive with chaos. Vera fell, defeated but alive. "You choose weakness," she sneered. Lyra's response, "No, compassion." Vanguard troops secured the core, but Lyra collapsed, her wounds mortal. In the med bay, aboard their cruiser, I held her hand. "You saved me first," she whispered. "A human might equal." Tears fell, mine. She died peacefully, her legacy intact. But the core revealed one last secret. It could revive, but at a cost, my humanity. I refused, honoring her. Years later, on a rebuilt Orion, I stood as ambassador bridging worlds. The stars held peace, fragile but real. And in quiet moments, I remember her eyes, that first gaze. Saving her had saved us all. But the void whispered, was it truly over? Or just the beginning of greater wars?